In one of the oldest flood accounts ever buried in clay, a god breaks rank, defies the decree of another god, and risks everything to keep mankind alive. Thousands of years before the book of Genesis was written, scribes in ancient Mesopotamia recorded a flood story so extraordinary that it still challenges what we think we know about humanity's earliest beliefs. These are not legends written yesterday. They are physical clay tablets discovered by archaeologists and preserved in museums around the world. And hidden inside these ancient records is evidence of a conflict among the gods themselves. 5,000 years ago, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the flat plains of southern Mesopotamia gave rise to the world's first urban civilization. This was Sumer. It was a world defined by highly organized city-states, miles of hand-dug irrigation canals, and massive mud-brick temples rising toward the sky. At the heart of these cities lived a powerful class of scribes. Using sharpened reeds pressed into damp clay, they developed cuneiform, the world's oldest writing system. They did more than record grain taxes and land sales. They preserved the sacred literature and complex theology of their world. Among these fragile clay records lies the true origin of the global flood tradition. For centuries, audiences associated the Great Deluge primarily with much later narratives. The physical evidence reveals that the story was born here, in the Bronze Age clay of Mesopotamia, long before other traditions took shape. In the Sumerian worldview, the universe operated under a strict divine bureaucracy. A pantheon of gods managed every aspect of nature and human life. Among these deities was Enlil, the sky god who held supreme executive authority over the earth, and Enki, the master of the subterranean waters known as the Abzu. To understand the catastrophic event that would alter this world forever, we must look at how these early scribes viewed the relationship between humanity and the divine. The tablets describe a world where humans were created for a single, physical purpose: to work. The gods, tired of digging canals and maintaining the earth, designed mankind to inherit their labor. For a time, the system functioned perfectly, keeping the cosmic economy balanced and the temples supplied with offerings. But as the centuries passed, the cities grew and the balance began to shift. This system of labor was organized around ancient urban hubs like Eridu, Nippur, and Sippar. Each city-state operated under the protection of a specific patron god, with the grand temples serving as both religious and administrative centers. The physical clay tablets, recovered from these very ruins, preserve a worldview where physical labor, state administration, and divine service were inextricably linked. The scribes who recorded these myths did not view them as simple tales, but as historical and theological truths that explained the order of their world. Yet the texts reveal that this orderly divine bureaucracy contained a fundamental flaw, one that would soon set the rulers of the pantheon against their own creation. According to the oldest Babylonian tablets, the creation of humanity was a practical solution to a divine crisis. The minor gods, known as the Egigi, had revolted after 40 years of hard labor digging the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. To restore order, the Supreme Council turned to Enki, the god of wisdom. Using clay from the Abzu, mixed with the blood of a sacrificed god, Enki fashioned the first humans. This creation was an act of raw necessity, not divine love. Humans were designed as biological machines, built to carry the baskets, dredge the canals, and feed the pantheon through daily temple sacrifices. In this theology, human existence was the grease that kept the cosmic machine running. If humanity failed to perform this labor, the gods themselves would starve. Because human life was defined entirely by this utility, its value was purely conditional. Scribes in cities like Nippur understood that the relationship between creator and created was contractual. If the tool became defective or if it disrupted the very cosmic order it was built to maintain, the gods held the absolute right to discard it. According to the cuneiform text preserved on Atrahasis Tablet 2, the stability of this divine human contract began to collapse, not from human rebellion, but from a biological consequence of their existence. The human population multiplied rapidly. The cities swelled. Inside the British Museum, the wedge-shaped characters of Tablet 2 record Enlil's growing frustration. The ancient scribe wrote that the country became too wide and the people too numerous. The supreme executive god could no longer find sleep because of their constant rigmu. While popular translations often render this Akkadian term simply as noise or racket, modern philologists uncover a far more complex theological debate. Was Enlil merely an irritable tyrant losing sleep to literal street clamor, or does the text preserve a deeper existential crisis? Some scholars suggest the word rigmu reflects massive overpopulation that strained the Earth's physical resources, throwing the ecological balance out of alignment. Others argue it represents social chaos, a moral or legal racket that threatened the very structure of divine rule. For Enlil, the sky god charged with maintaining universal order, the decision to act was not born of malice. It was a failure of the design. The human tools were producing an intolerable disturbance that disrupted the cosmic machinery. The tablet reveals that this administrative crisis built up over centuries, forcing the Supreme Council to act. To restore equilibrium to a noisy, overcrowded Earth, Enlil reached a cold, logical conclusion. The system required a complete reset. To execute this system reset, the Supreme Executive God convened the ultimate authority of the Mesopotamian universe, the Divine Assembly. In this grand celestial council, the great gods, Anu, Enki, Ninhursag, and the rest of the pantheon gathered to decide the fate of the Earth. This functioned as a formal judicial body, leaving no room for debate. Enlil, exercising his supreme executive power, presented his final decree. Humanity was to be entirely wiped out by a catastrophic deluge. But a decree of this magnitude required absolute administrative certainty. To prevent any interference, Enlil introduced a terrifying legal mechanism. As preserved in the cuneiform wedge script of Atrahasis Tablet 2, catalogued as BM 78943 from the ancient city of Sippar, the gods did not simply vote on the matter, they swore a binding oath of absolute secrecy. Lines 30 through 45 of the tablet lay out the terms of this divine covenant. In the ancient Near East, oaths were heavy, physical contracts carrying the threat of immediate cosmic retribution if broken. Modern philologists studying the Sippar tablets debate the exact translation of this passage. Some interpret the cuneiform signs as sulmu, representing a pact of peace among the gods. Others read the signs as summa, meaning if, framing the oath as a highly conditional legal treaty, akin to the rigid legal codes that would later govern the Babylonian world. But the core restriction of the covenant remained non-negotiable. No god, regardless of their rank or personal feelings, was permitted to warn humanity of the impending disaster. The decision was sealed. The decree was absolute. Any attempt to preserve human life would now mean breaking a sacred, legally binding oath of the High Council, an act of treason against the supreme authority of the cosmos. Atrahasis Tablet 3, preserved as a fragmented clay record, reveals that the absolute secrecy of the Divine Council was breached from within. One deity refused to let the human race vanish. Enki, the god of the subterranean Abzu, stood as the architect of humanity's creation, and he now became their sole protector. But Enki faced a legal paradox. He had sworn a binding oath to Enlil not to speak to any mortal, a pact carrying the threat of immediate cosmic retribution. To bypass this restriction, Enki designed a precise legalistic loophole. The cuneiform text records that instead of speaking directly to the human survivor, Atrahasis, Enki stood outside the man's home and addressed the structure itself. He spoke to the seppu, the reed wall of the shelter. Lines on the tablet record Enki whispering to the screen of reeds. Wall, listen to me. Reed wall, pay attention to my words. British Museum curator Dr. Irving Finkel analyzes this specific passage as a calculated legal loophole. In the rigid legal environment of ancient Mesopotamia, where oaths were physical contracts, Enki did not technically break his promise to the council. He did not tell a human. He told a wall, fully aware that Atrahasis was sitting on the other side, listening to every word through the reeds. This indirect warning provided the exact specifications for survival. Enki instructed the wall to dismantle the house and build a massive bitumen-coated boat. For modern philologists, this clever bypass raises a profound theological question. Was Enki's act one of technical obedience to the letter of the law, Or was it a calculated act of rebellion against the supreme executive authority of Enlil? While the later standard Babylonian version on Tablet 11 of the Epic of Gilgamesh simplifies this scene into a direct verbal warning from Ea to the survivor, the older Old Babylonian Atrahasis tablet preserves the legal friction of the original myth. Enki worked within the strict parameters of the oath, using the reed screen as a physical shield against divine prosecution. Enki's silent rebellion preserved the human race, but his true motive remains one of the ancient world's greatest mysteries. The first explanation is built on pure compassion. As the creator who mixed clay with divine blood, Enki may have felt an enduring empathy for his creation, refusing to watch his handiwork perish in the rising waters. Another perspective points to the preservation of civilization itself. If the cities, canals, and accumulated knowledge of Sumer were completely erased, the earthly order would vanish, returning the world to a blank, primeval state. A more cynical theory focuses on raw utility. Humans were biological tools built to labor and feed the pantheon. Without their daily temple offerings, the gods would starve. By saving his worshippers, Enki secured his own economic and cultic survival, protecting the priesthood of his sacred city, Eridu. A fourth perspective frames his defiance as a supreme political countermove. By resisting the decree, Enki engaged in a silent chess match of cosmic balance, opposing Enlil's absolute executive power to prevent the complete destruction of the earthly realm. Whether driven by mercy, politics, or self-preservation, Enki left no definitive explanation. The ancient clay tablets record his actions, but the master of the silent, watery depths kept his ultimate allegiance to himself. While the identity of the god who broke the secret is clear, the mortal he saved shifts across centuries of clay. In the earliest Sumerian fragment from Nippur, the survivor is Ziusudra, the devout king of Shuruppak, whose name means "he who saw life." When the story was recorded in the 18th century Babylonian tablets, this figure became Atrahasis, the exceedingly wise. By the time the narrative was carved onto the 7th century library tablets of Ashurbanipal at Nineveh, he was known as Utnapishtim. Some researchers suggest these shifting names do not represent competing legends, but rather the linguistic evolution of a single, ancient rescue pattern. The core narrative remains intact: a warning, a massive vessel, and a survivor who preserves the seed of humanity. Many scholars have noted that as the story migrated from Sumerian to Akkadian and Babylonian dialects, scribes adapted the protagonist's name to match their contemporary culture rather than inventing a new myth. How these regional variations connected and whether they reflect a shared historical reality remains a matter of ongoing debate. Yet this textual continuity reveals a memory so powerful that it survived the fall of multiple empires, carrying the secret of Enki's warning across thousands of years of Mesopotamian history. This physical legacy is no longer buried under desert sands. Today, the concrete proofs of these ancient texts survive in climate-controlled vaults. Inside Room 56 of the British Museum in London, catalogued under numbers BM78941 and BM78943, lie the actual clay tablets of the Atrahasis epic. Nearby, the 11th tablet of the Epic of Gilgamesh rests under glass. Hundreds of miles away, the Iraq Museum in Baghdad protects similarly essential cuneiform records recovered from the ruins of Sumerian cities. These are not copies or reconstructions. They are original, three-dimensional objects of baked clay, bearing the physical impressions of reeds pressed into wet earth nearly 4,000 years ago. For modern historians, these collections offer direct, unmediated access to the mind of the ancient scribe, serving as undeniable material evidence that the memory of Enki's rebellion was written down at the very dawn of human civilization. Many scholars have noted that the structural framework of these Mesopotamian tablets closely mirrors the later Genesis narrative. Both traditions preserve the memory of a singular chosen survivor who receives a divine warning before the onset of absolute destruction. In both story worlds, the survivor is instructed to construct a massive, pitched vessel to preserve the seed of life. The inclusion of animals as a critical cargo for survival, followed by a devastating deluge, links these ancient records across centuries. Yet some researchers suggest these parallels represent a shared cultural pool of Near Eastern traditions rather than direct literary copying. Whether the Hebrew scribes adapted the older cuneiform epics or drew from a common ancestral memory remains a matter of ongoing debate. This enduring connection transforms the clay tablets from localized Mesopotamian legends into a foundational blueprint for one of humanity's most enduring stories. Today we still grapple with the boundaries of authority and the cost of survival. Enki's ancient choice forces us to ask whether humanity's existence is a sacred gift or a stolen compromise. Did a god defy the heavens out of mercy or for a deeper, hidden design? And buried within ancient clay, that question remains unanswered to this day.